way to the kitchen, a frown marring her beautiful features. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with an undercurrent of something I couldn't quite place. "Just neighborhood gossip," I said, trying to convince myself more than her. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Elena's laughter was a bit too loud, her glances a bit too quick. Sleep eluded me as Mrs. Peterson's words echoed in my mind, breeding a seed of doubt that refused to be stilled. The next day, I found myself at the local electronics store, purchasing a small, inconspicuous camera. It was probably an overreaction, but I needed peace of mind, I told myself. Installation was simple, and by the time I left for work the next morning, a tiny lens was discreetly positioned in the living room, its presence unknown to Elena. I tried to focus on my meetings, but my thoughts were anchored at home. When I finally checked the camera feed from my office, the quiet interior of our living room greeted me. Then, just as I was about to shut it off, the front door opened. Elena entered, her smile bright and carefree. Moments later, he followed, a stranger in my home. My heart pounded as I watched them embrace, laughter spilling from their lips like a melody that soured the air I breathed. The shock was visceral, a cold grip tightening around my chest. This was no misunderstanding, no innocent scenario that could be explained away. The truth was as clear as the image on my screen: my wife, the love of my life, was betraying me. I sat in my office, the hum of daily business around me, feeling a cavernous disconnect from it all. The image of their intimacy branded my mind, and with it, a resolve hardened within me. Elena's betrayal wouldn't go unanswered. Revenge, a concept I'd never entertained before, now pulsed through my veins like a living thing. As I drove home that evening, the plan began to take shape. I would confront her, yes, but first, I would unravel her deceit piece by piece until everything she valued was as broken as the trust she had shattered. This was just the beginning. I spent another restless night plotting, the shadows in our bedroom stretching long and sinister across the floor. Elena slept peacefully beside me, her breaths even and calm, oblivious to the storm brewing just inches away. Dawn broke with a chilly embrace, the morning light too bright, too sharp against my simmering anger. Breakfast was a silent affair. Elena chattered about her plans for the day, her words floating meaningless above the clink of cutlery. My nods were automatic, my responses hollow. She didn't notice, caught up in the excitement of her upcoming girls' day out. Little did she know, I had plans of my own. "I might be late tonight, just so you know," Elena said, brushing a kiss against my cheek, her touch suddenly foreign. "Don't wait up." Her cheerfulness grated against my nerves. "Sure, have fun," I managed, my voice tight. As soon as the door closed behind her, I sprung into action. My first stop was the bank. I needed to see for myself what else she might be hiding. With a grim face, I requested statements for our accounts over the past 6 months. The clerk, a young woman with sympathetic eyes, handed them over without question. My eyes scanned the columns, and there it was, a series of withdrawals and unfamiliar charges that didn't add up. Each one was a punch to my gut, a confirmation of deceit. The electronics store was my next destination. I bought additional cameras and trackers, tools in my burgeoning arsenal of surveillance. By the time I returned home, I was a man on a mission. The new cameras found their secretive nooks in our bedroom and her car, the trackers nestled silently under her seats. With my network set up, I retreated to my office, my eyes glued to the monitors. The hours ticked by, each minute stretching longer than the last, until finally, her car blinked into life on the screen. I watched as the tracker moved through the city, a pulsing beacon of betrayal, until it stopped at an all-too-familiar address, the home of her supposed friend from yoga. The confrontation was inevitable. I drove to the address, my hands shaking with a cocktail of rage and heartbreak. The door was answered by none other than the man I had seen in my living room, his face registering surprise and then fear as he recognized me. "Mark." "What a surprise," he stammered, stepping back. I pushed past him, finding Elena in the kitchen. Her face drained of color when she saw me. "Mark, what are you?" "How long, Elena?" My voice was a low growl, cutting through her stammering. "How long have you been lying to me?" "It's not what you think," she pleaded, her voice trembling. I laughed, a bitter sound that filled the room. "I've seen enough to know exactly what to think." The argument escalated quickly, accusations flying as our marriage unraveled at the seams. With each word, my resolve hardened. This wasn't just about catching her in the act. It was about ensuring she could never deceive me, or anyone else, again. I left her there, her cries echoing behind me as I walked away. The pieces of my plan were falling into place, each step a move towards retribution. She had ruined the sanctity of our home, and in return, I would dismantle the life she knew. As I drove back home, the city lights blurred past, indistinct and unimportant. My mind was clear, focused. This was only the beginning. Elena's betrayal would cost her everything, just as her actions had cost me the trust one once held dear. The house felt cavernous and hollow when I returned, the echo of Elena's betrayal resonating off every wall. My next steps were clear, fueled by a cold, calculated anger. I called her once I was inside, my voice steady, masking the storm inside. "Elena, we need to talk." "Come home now," I said tersely when she answered, her voice still shaky from earlier. "Mark, I'm so sorry, I'm coming home." "We can sort this out," she pleaded, desperation threading through her words. The wait was torturous, but necessary. Each minute allowed me to fortify my resolve, to plan each confrontation with precision. When her car pulled into the driveway, I was ready, stationed by the window, watching as she hesitated before entering what was no longer a sanctuary but a battleground. She found me in the living room, standing amidst the shadows that had grown longer with the evening light. Her eyes were red, her posture defensive yet broken. "Mark, please, let me explain," she started, but I cut her off with a wave of my hand. "Explain? What is there to explain, Elena? The money? The lies? Him?" My voice rose with each question, the last word a venomous spike. She flinched, then gathered herself. "It's not just black and white. I made a mistake, but I never wanted to hurt you." "Mistakes are forgotten keys, not affairs," I snapped back. "But you did more than just cheat. You've been funneling money out of our accounts. For how long?" Elena's eyes widened, the color draining from her face. I can explain that. It was never meant to be permanent." I laughed, a harsh, disbelieving sound. "Permanent or temporary, you stole from us, from our future. And now, you'll face the consequences." Her breath hitched, a mix of fear and realization dawning on her. What are you going to do?" "First, everyone will know. Your parents, your friends. Then, the divorce papers you can't contest. And every financial indiscretion documented and reported. Your life as you know it is over." She collapsed into the sofa, sobbing, her body racked with each cry. "Please, Mark, I'm begging you, we can get past this. I can make it right." "You're beyond making things right," I said, my tone icy as I pulled out my phone. I dialed, and her eyes widened in panic as she realized I was calling her mother. Her voice broke the silence, frantic and pleading. "Mom, I need you to listen to me very carefully," I began, my words cutting through Elena's cries. "There's something you need to know about your daughter." As I narrated every detail, Elena's sobs grew louder, her pleas drowned out by the harsh truth. Her mother's stunned silence on the other end was all the confirmation I needed that the magnitude of Elena's betrayal was now irrevocably exposed. After the call, I watched her crumple, a shattered semblance of the woman I once loved. My heart, once heavy with grief, now felt nothing but a vindictive satisfaction. The retribution was in motion, unstoppable, much like the downfall Elena had orchestrated for herself. I'll send for my things tomorrow, I stated coldly, my decision final. You should find somewhere else to stay tonight. I want you gone by the time I wake up. Leaving her amidst the ruins of her deceit, I retreated to my bedroom, locking the door behind me. As I lay in the dark, the silence wasn't soothing but a stark reminder of the loneliness ahead. Yet, the thought of her impending desolation, a mirror of my own, brought a grim sense of justice. This was only the beginning of her retribution, and mine was a path now walked alone. The morning after Elena's departure was gray, the skies mirroring the storm that had settled in my heart. The house was silent, too silent, each room echoing back my solitary footsteps like whispers of the chaos that had unfolded. As I sat at the kitchen table, the plans for Elena's further downfall laid out in front of me, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number, but the content was chillingly familiar, a picture of Elena and her lover, captioned with words that sliced through the remnants of my composure. How does it feel, Mark? The audacity of the message ignited a fresh wave of fury. I traced the number, a simple task with the tools I had amassed over the past days. It led me to him, Elena's other betrayer. His boldness in reaching out was the final nail in the coffin of my restraint. Fueled by a relentless drive for revenge, I drove to his workplace. I found him in the parking lot, about to get into his car. His recognition of me was instant, his face paling as he saw the resolve in my eyes. Mark, look, I can explain, he started, his voice trembling as he held up his hands in a futile defense. There's nothing to explain, I cut him off, stepping closer, the distance closing between justice and retribution. You knew she was married. It was a mistake. Please, let's talk about this like civilized people, he pleaded, his back hitting the car as he retreated. Civilized? I scoffed, my laugh harsh and humorless. You expect civility after you helped destroy my marriage? I didn't wait for his response. Instead, I grabbed him by the collar, dragging him to the side of his car. His fear was palpable, his pleas pathetic. But there was no room for mercy. You're going to lose everything, just like I did, I hissed into his ear, my grip tightening. I'll make sure of it. I let him go abruptly, stepping back as he slid down the side of the car, his breaths ragged. I took a picture of him there, beaten and broken. This photo is just the beginning. I will ruin you, I declared, each word a promise. With that, I left him there, a broken man in a deserted parking lot. As I drove away, the adrenaline that had fueled my actions began to ebb, leaving a bitter emptiness in its wake. The days that followed were a blur of legal and social maneuvering. Documents were leaked, showing not just Elena's infidelity, but her lover's role in the deception. His professional life crumbled as the scandal took on a life of its own, spurred by the damning evidence I released to his colleagues and the media. As for Elena, her social circle shrunk as friends and family distanced themselves, her financial misdeeds leaving her destitute. Her pleas for forgiveness came frequently, each one ignored with the same cold indifference she had shown our vows. But as the dust settled, the satisfaction I expected to feel never came. Instead, there was a hollow victory, the ruins of my own life glaring back at me from the mirror. I had destroyed everything in my path, but I stood amidst the wreckage alone, the weight of my actions heavier than the betrayal that had caused them. Months later, a letter arrived. No return address, just Elena's familiar handwriting. Inside, her words spoke of regret, of love lost and the pain of consequences. She wrote of her move to another city, her attempts to start anew, but the shadow of our shared past loomed large over her words. I burned the letter, watching as the flames consumed her words. Elena was gone, her lover destroyed, but the cost was immense. In seeking retribution, I had crossed lines from which there was no return, my soul as scarred as the lives I had dismantled. The house, once filled with love, now stood as a tombstone to my rage. I packed a single suitcase, leaving behind the remnants of a life that was no longer mine to claim. As I closed the door behind me, the echo sounded one final time, a reminder of the price of vengeance. In the end, there was no triumph in revenge, only the tragic realization that in destroying them, I had destroyed myself. The hatred of betrayal had consumed everything, leaving nothing but ashes and the bitter taste of regret.